Okay, so in today's lesson, we're going to look at how to use the healing tool and the clone tool with a particular emphasis on the clone tool. And so here we have a few images of Jane Fonda. Here she's probably about, I'm going to say in her early 20s here. And here she's aged a bit more. Here she's probably in her 70s. And you'll notice this is a very low resolution image. There's a lot of pixelation going on in there. And then we come over here to something a little more recent, and we're going to try to take about 10 years off of the face, and we're going to use the clone tool and the healing tool. First, I'm going to start with the clone tool. Okay, the clone tool allows you to grab portions of skin, identical portions, and then overlay them over other areas like these lines here, these age lines. So as usual, I'm always using, if you go to the properties, I'm always using a feathered brush. Never a hard brush. So rare you'd use a hard brush. Feathered because it just spreads your effect on the edges. So there's kind of a blending effect on the edges. The center of the brush will be a hard copy, but the edges will kind of like do it at about 50%. So I'm going to take this. My keyboard is on English, could be American or Canadian English here. And beside the letter P, I have my open and closed brackets, which allows me, you'll notice up here, to shrink and grow my brush. Now, first I'm going to target the face of the clone tool. I hold Alt, I click. Now my clone tool, if I go anywhere, is going to grab skin from here, and if I draw a straight line, it will paint there. Now you'll notice it didn't do a very hard job. I'm going to edit undo there because I had my opacity at 36% from some previous use. So let me put it up to 100. I'll do that again. There, you can see just below where I'm painting, you see the crosshairs of my original target. So it follows that target. Just to give you an idea of how that works. If I did it with the eye, let's use a bigger brush. Hold Alt, change the origin of the stamp now. So now it's going to start from here, the eye. And if I were to come over here, you can see it copies the eye. Edit, undo. So what I'm going to do is take a small brush. I'm going to come in here, click, Alt, click, and just do this tiny line first. Don't try to do everything at once. Try to do small areas. Because you want precision. So here we've got a little line here and we've got a little line here. So I'm going to start with these diagonal lines right there. Can you see those? They're subtle, but I'm going to get rid of those first. And I'm grabbing skin that's approximately the same color. Here's a little bit of a darker shade here. So I'll come in here, there's a bit of a darker shade. Okay. Because I've done that now, that frees me up to do this other line over here. So I'm going to Alt-click, come here, and just go over that line. You notice it duplicated an artifact here to the right of the brush and here. So if you want to get rid of that, that's a sure sign that you've been photoshopping when you see little duplicate patterns like that. And then I'm going to come over here and do that little line, do this one. I'm Alt-clicking. Every time I'm Alt-clicking, grabbing a new source. Here, I'm going to Alt-click here. I'm going to do about half of this line. See how well that looks. Don't get greedy and try to do everything too fast. Now I'm going to start over here and move this way. Click there. Okay. Then I'm going to do this little line over here. Click. And then Alt click. Get rid of that little artifact. Alt click from down here. Maybe cover that one. Alt click here. Get rid of that little shade. I'm getting rid of the little artifacts underneath before I try to attack this last bit of line here. So now I'm going to do the last bit of line. I'm going to click Alt click. There we go. And then Alt click over here. Do that. Alt click here. Get rid of those little dots. And now finish this one up here. Alt click. Alt click. Grab a new source. There we go. And slowly, I'm working my way into the eye, underneath the eyelid here. So let me Alt-click there. And kind of work my way over here. And then Okay, let's see what we got here. Now, when you get just beneath the eye, you don't want to take all these lines out. She's an 83-year-old lady, and 10 years is fine, but if you try to overdo it, then your image is definitely going to start looking fake. So you have to be subtle with a certain amount of the changes. So I'm going to start by, first of all, eliminating these lines first, and I'll show you what I mean. Let's get rid of these last ones here. Okay, Alt-click, grab a new, oh, you see what it did there? I Alt-clicked, came up here, but as I draw up, that time it didn't do it. It kind of grabbed the line that was down here and redrew it up here. So that's why sometimes it's better to do small portions a bit at a time, because look, the color's changing here. You don't want to grab pink over here and bring it into the shadow. So let's try to fix that. Okay. Now I was talking about under the eyelid here. I'm going to take my clone tool and I'm going to set it to about 35%. I'm going to take a bigger brush and I'm going to Alt-click here and start up here and just paint along the edge. And I'm not trying to take it out completely. Right now you'll notice it's the edge of my brush that I'm passing underneath. Remember the feathered part? That kind of has an opacity to it as well. I've already reduced the opacity of this brush to 33%, so the edge of the brush is even a further reduction in opacity. Now I'm going to take a smaller brush and start just working my way in, but I'm really trying to look at the dark line under her eye. I'm not taking it out, I'm just softening it. Okay, so I'm leaving some age in there, but I am taking out other things. So let's talk about the healing brush now. Okay, now if I go back to the healing brush, I'm just going to copy this, by the way, here. I'm going to go select all and I'm going to copy it. Just to show you it's selected, I'm going to copy this entire image. Okay, Command C, copy. Okay, and now I'm going to go back here to the beginning. Oops, hold on. Let me show you so you can see the difference. 2 fingers together dragging on my trackpad to move the image around and go back to the beginning. So there's the before, there's the after. And I wanted to copy my image as a backup. So I paste and it automatically creates a new layer here. Just call this a backup. It's in case I start making any mistakes and I don't want to go back several steps. I'll turn this layer off and I'm going to go back over here. I'm working on the background, so you got to click on the layer. That's the original layer I was working on. This is just a copy I pasted in case I need it later on. Let's talk about the healing tool now. The healing tool combines 2 areas. It's a very interesting tool. So if I were, for example, same concept as the clone, but if I grab here and I pass this along the edge, it will not only cover the line, but it will blend 2 different areas. But you can see it didn't do a great job there. And what do I mean by blend? I mean it will take a bit of this area and a bit of this dark area, and it will blend the light and dark areas. And so what it's particularly good for is now that I've done repairs on the major areas with the clone tool, I can come in and fix. The healing tool you don't want to use on very high contrasting areas because it doesn't do a very good job. That's what I just showed you here. Look, Alt click and it looks like it does, but there's a lot of detail fakeness in there. I'm going to edit and undo that. But it is good for blending areas of similar color. So let's say I come over here in the pink cheek and I come over here to fix up those little artifacts. Over here you can see we have repetition just to the right of my brush here and here. Well, grab some dark skin here and just dab. Alt click, dab, alt click. Let's see what that does. There you go. And that looks pretty good. And then you have these 2 vertical lines here on the right. Here, let's dab. and dab. There we go, and it's doing a blend. No, I don't like that. That doesn't work. I'll get back to that later. Now, to show you the particular effects of the healing tool, I'm going to open Scarface. This will give you a better idea of the two. Now, if I wanted, I could take the clone tool, and to get rid of the scar on his face, I would alt-click here. By the way, put this back up to 100%. Alt-click here, come in here, and I grab from the dark patch of skin, and then I'm going to grab from the light patch and work my way in. Alt-click, come from the light patch. So I'm getting rid of that big, harsh white line that divides the light area of skin and the dark area of skin. And I'm using the edge of the brush, which is feathered, okay, and working my way in. Okay, let's see how that, let's go a bit from the dark. Let's see how that looks from beginning. I go back in my history. That's before and after. So now all you see is kind of a divide between dark and light. I got rid of that very bright lit surface of the scar. And now is a good time to use the healing tool. The healing tool kind of does what I just did. I grabbed a bit from this side, took out the bright edge, and a bit of this side, took out the bright edge. But there is no blend here. So let me take a bigger brush, and I can go from dark, alt-click in the dark area. There you go. And then alt-click and come over here from the light area and do the same thing, so that there's kind of a double combined here effect, and I'll get rid of that line. Okay, let's see what it looks like before and after. Zoom out. There's the scar. There, it's gone. What would happen if we use the healing tool from the very beginning? Okay, let's grab from the dark here. And that's not bad. You could, in this case, it could work if you go from the light side to the dark side. And you see, so it kind of grabbed a bit of both areas and it blended. I'm going to come back to our aging. If I was to try and fix this eye with the blend tool, and I'm going to grab from the skin down here, use a bigger brush, doing my open bracket key, and just come along here, and you can see what it does. Like, it kind of has a very harsh line right there, and it just, if you compare this side to this side, the differences are subtle, but they're obvious. It's just flat and monotone here. Here, by doing the clone tool first, I've maintained, using my own personal judgment, I've maintained the texture of the eye. The same would be true of, let's say, the nose. Let's say I tried to repair her nose up here. First I'm going to edit, undo that last bit. And I grab some skin, dark skin over here, and I try to do part of her nose. I'm using the healing tool now. Okay, that worked out well, but you'll notice we lost some of the shade that was in there. So it depends how realistic you want to get. If you used your clone tool first to get rid of some of those lines, you could probably preserve the original shadows on the eye. So if I switch tools and I click, and I'm clicking and grabbing shadowed areas where only there's shadowed areas, alt click. I'm always alt clicking. Alt click. I'm moving my way up. And here there's a bridge. You notice the line between light and dark? It goes from shadow to light on the bridge of the nose. So I'm going to grab on the line there with the clone tool where the bridge is and just kind of paint down there and then go upward. Alt click and go up. And now I can grab from down here. There you go, look. You can see what's happening. And work on the bridge over here. And that's the difference between using the clone tool. I like to use the clone tool first, play with its opacity when I'm trying to keep some original features there, And the healing tool can work in that same way, but when it's in difficult areas, it's better to use it as kind of a finishing up tool. And you're just cleaning up little areas that you already did with the clone tool. But sometimes the healing tool can do a very good job in the first shot.